my life.
All righty, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of I Coach Nutrition Radio. Today, I have a special guest, somebody who I've had the pleasure of working with over the last year as a client, and somebody that's gotten amazing results. Credit to him and all of his hard work and dedication to the program here. And so I'm excited for him to be able to come on the show and us kind of dive into the last year of working together, and hopes that it inspires you, the listener, to be able to take action and be able to make a transformation there for yourself. So without further ado, Matt, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm good. Just out on the road working, and luckily have enough time to do this with you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man there. For those of you that we'll get into this in a second, but when you think about like getting results, I mean, there's so many people out there that want to, lose weight, that want to transform their body, that want to kind of learn how to live a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. And, for a lot of those people, not to say that they're not busy, but I would argue that you're probably one of the one of the busiest clients, I've worked with, just in terms of your crazy schedule as a pilot. I mean, you're on the road all the time, your schedule's constantly changing. When it comes to, just like being outside of being outside of your environment, right? I mean, your environment's just constantly changing all the time, right? So
Yeah,
that's why, I mean, again, I've told you many times throughout this journey, like, just kudos to you for all of your hard work and dedication to the program, because it definitely hasn't been easy, right? I always joke, like, if this was the only thing in your life that you had to focus on, it probably wouldn't be that hard to lose
right.
weight, but like you've got a family, you've got kids, you're traveling all the time. I mean, you got a lot on your plate there, but yet you still were able to make this a priority in your life there. So, before we kind of dive into all of that, let's take it back and just kind of give a little bit of background on you. How old are you? What do you tell us a little bit about you, your dad, husband, kids, what do you do for work? And then let's kind of dive into, where you were at, a year ago before we started working together, and what kind of led you to reach out in the first place.
Well, yeah, like you said, I'm married. I got 4 kids, and I'm an airline pilot, so schedule's kind of crazy, changes, and I'm kind of low guy on the totem pole, slowly getting up there, but so I'm getting a little bit more control, but still things change during the day, weather and all that stuff. But yeah, where I was before, I'd done diets. I'd done the keto diet. I'd done P90X several times. It just then something happened. My wife would get pregnant, and just life happens, and those things just weren't something that I could do and live that lifestyle going forward. And so prior to working with you, I was tired, I was irritable, I was fat and out of shape and mad about that too. So just everything that goes along with that. Sleep. I wasn't prioritizing sleep as well as I should have. I mean, I got enough, and I was good. But after working with you, looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I should have made that a little bit bigger of a priority. I didn't understand the difference of it, how much that actually made for me. But yeah, so I had done those things, and I had luckily have an awesome wife who was like, well, hey, I was looking around, and I found this guy. Like, I think you ought to call him. She kind of told me, and so I went to your website, looked around. I was like, okay, well, I'll call him and see what this is all about. And I'd already been kind of working out and trying to eat better, and prior to us working together. But that was a recent start, and so I called you, and we talked, and you were just so not pushy. You're the thing that I really loved was at one point during the call, where, you talked about the history and like what I'd done. He's like, and you're like, well, here's what we're gonna do. We're not doing the keto diet. We're not doing the paleo diet. We're not doing whatever diet you want to insert. We're doing the MAT diet, because if you can't do this, what are we doing? And that really struck home with me. I'm like, yeah, that's true, and so, and like you said, you weren't pushy, and it was like, hey man, if you want to work with me, great. If you don't, great. Just, but I really enjoyed working with you. And so, I got off the phone and talked to my wife, and she's like, well, what do you think? I was like, well, I kind of liked it. He's not pushy. So she's like, well, let's just try it. And so we started with a month, and got into it. And unfortunately, that first week, I just so happened to be on the road, and I got sick for that first week, and so didn't give you the greatest look at my nutrition for that first week, unfortunately. But we worked through it, and got started, and just it was it's crazy that the time went so fast. um but it was a great journey, and one that I'm obviously still going on, because it is a lifestyle change. So it's been great. I've loved every minute of it, even the dieting phases. The big thing that I noticed, and I'd said in one of my posts, like, I'm actually looking forward to the next dieting phase, which for me previously would have been like the dumbest statement I've ever made. So the mindset change has been awesome.
That's awesome,
So
man. I guess I got a lot of questions, but just kind of piggybacking right off what you just said there. You say dieting phase, right? And I think a lot of people that are listening to this right now, I mean, I would definitely argue, the majority of the general public, when they hear dieting phase, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean a dieting phase, right? Like, because most people, they're either on a diet or they're off the diet, right? Like they're trying
right,
to sit there and do the New Year's resolutions, or they got a vacation or a wedding coming up, and they basically just starve themselves and try to do a whole bunch of cardio, or even you in the past, right, kicking up keto or P90X real quick, right?
right.
So like, what is a dieting phase, and what has kind of been this journey of like nutritional periodization for you? Like, can you kind of help explain that to the listeners, in terms of like, we've had to go through phases of dieting. We haven't just been on a diet for the whole entire last year.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's exactly like it's a phase. Like, so anywhere from 3 to 4 months, we would go on I even hate to say dieting phase, because it's not, I mean, a reduced calorie phase. Like, you're still eating the foods that you should be eating, the healthy foods, but um, you're just you're not at your maintenance calorie. And you made it really easy. We went on the calculator, figured out, okay, this is how much your maintenance is, and okay, let's start here, and then you know we worked from there. So that dieting phase is um, just a reduction in calories from what your maintenance is, which you will help them uh, go through to figure out what that is on the TDD calculator.
Yeah, and just kind of for a reference for the listeners. So I mean, when you like, if we kind of look into like your metrics there specifically, right? And we're thinking to
Yeah,
ourselves, we're like, all right, you were 243 when we first started,
right,
5'10", 36 years old, right? And you were already working out, even though it was a recent thing, but you were working out like 5-6 days a week doing strength training, right?
right,
Obviously you were kind of doing like a different strength training program than you are now.
right.
But how many calories how many calories were you eating when we did that? I mean, I know the first week was a little off there, but like you got sick, but how many calories were you eating on average when we first started? And then what did that
So
dieting phase kind of look like calorie wise? And then what did you work back up to in terms of maintenance?
okay, yeah. So when we first started, like you said, I wasn't tracking very well, which kind of defeats the purpose of trying to lose weight. You got to know what you're putting into your body. So I was probably eating 2,800 to 3,000 calories, working out 5 times a week. And then, when we first started, we went down to, I think we started at 23 or 2,500, something like that. I think it was 2,300 calories. So only about 500 calories less than what my maintenance was at the time. And then, we stayed at that for several weeks, and then we went. I think we were at 2,300 calories for pretty close to a month and a half, and then uh, we knocked it down to 2,100 calories and did another month and a half of that, and then for the last month, I believe it was we went down to 1,900 calories, um, just because my body was responding and or had stopped responding there at the 2,100. So we made a little last minute push to try to get as good results off that first one as we could, which I did. I went from 243, I think, down to two 219, 218, 217, something like that, and gained roughly 6 pounds of muscle in that same dieting phase. And then uh, once we did that 4 months, we bumped it back up to 2,100 for 2 weeks. Then we went back to 2,300, 25, 27, working it up to my maintenance calories of 2,900 calories. And so then we did that for about 4 months, uh, which luckily my maintenance calories was through Thanksgiving and Christmas, so the timing was good. But there again, right around the holidays, with traveling, and I was outside of my normal, I gained a little bit of it back, and then we started back on a dieting phase in late January. Um, and I gained, like, I think 5 pounds back, and then we started a dieting phase again, and then just did the same thing over again. We went from 2,800 calories, then we went at my maintenance, then we went down to 2,500, and then 2,300, 2,100, and then uh, I think there again for the last month we did 1,900 again, and then we reversed the process again. So 20, 21, 23, and I'm at 2,700 calories right now, and then in another week we're going to bump it up to 2,900 calories. So it's just that dieting phase that's what it is just kind of walking it down, trying to get you to lose the weight and lose the fat, and it's typically 500 to 800 calories less than what your maintenance was what we did.
Yeah, and so it's interesting, right? I mean, like there's two big concerns here. Like number one, most people they get scared when they might lose a bunch of weight and get great results doing a dieting phase, but then they're scared to reverse diet their calorie intake back up to maintenance, right? And obviously, like, now it's like, I mean, this is something that you've got
I
to
have
do
to.
in order to be able to maintain the results you just worked so hard to get. But think back to like the first time that you did it, like, and this is obviously a concern that so many people have, but you think you're going to gain that weight back. You're like, how in the world could I increase my calories up, 600, 800, 1,000, whatever it is there, and keep this weight off, and to gain, 5 pounds after losing all that weight. I mean, honestly, most of the time with that reverse diet, you're putting on muscle during that maintenance phase there, with that
Right.
weight
and
gain.
and in that time too, like I said, I was traveling. My family was back with my wife's family, and so I'd be there, travel back to go to work, then travel back, and so it was even more travel than normal, and I wasn't as good as I needed to be during that time too. So I mean, I wasn't getting the workouts that I did get in weren't as good as they normally were, and because I wasn't in my normal environment, um, I didn't have any workout equipment and stuff like that. So normally I when I do travel, you go to a gym. It may not be the greatest thing in the world, and I'm sure I drove your wife nuts with the text of, "Hey, I'm at a gym that's not normal. What can I sub this for?" And you'd always get back to me in 5 minutes and say, "Yeah, do this instead." So it made it really easy, the ability to reach out and just say, "Hey, I can't do this workout. What should I do instead?" So, but yeah, the like we had talked, you've got to work it back up to get your body um, the nutrients it needs, and that dieting phase is the not normal. Like the normal is the maintenance. So you know, like I said, you go online and you can go through that thing, and you do it with the TDEE calculator, and figure out what that maintenance calories is, and that's what your normal is. So as long as you're doing the workouts and doing that stuff, like had I done that, I don't think I would have gained anything had I been in an not that Christmas time where you're eating cookies and doing the stuff that's out of the norm. So
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right there on the head, right? I mean, when you think about dieting, dieting is a big stress on your body. I mean, intentionally restricting yourself how many calories your body needs, and being in a calorie deficit, that puts a big stress on your body, right? And so you have to be able to, periodize your nutrition in a way that allows you to, yeah, you got to eat in a calorie deficit to lose the weight, to lose the body fat. That has to happen, but you can't do that forever, right? And you've got to be
right,
able to let your body recover from that, right? And kind of go through these phases. Because think back, I mean, imagine if we would have, let's say we worked all the way down to, whatever it was, 1900 there, right? 1700, whatever we got down to, right? And then we just stayed there for a whole entire year. Like, what do you
it
think would
wouldn't have
happen
worked.
then?
It wouldn't have worked. By the end of that, I was so happy to be adding calories back, like it, and my workouts were better. Like we had talked several times, you'd be like, "Man, your workout videos look good. You're pushing it hard, but don't push it too hard. You are in a calorie deficit, And when we were getting towards the end, he's like, "Yeah," you're like, "Oh yeah, it's going to be great. Once you add some calories back, you're really going to be able to push through these workouts." And you know, I didn't fully understand what you meant of like, "Oh, you're going to feel so much better when we add these calories in after your workouts." But like once we added those back, like I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is what he was talking about, how I was gonna love these calories." I mean, I loved them from I was hungry. I wasn't hungry all the time, but I also loved it from the recovery from the workouts. Like I'd get done with a workout, and a couple hours later, I fuel my body back up, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I got it." I totally understand what he meant of working out in a deficit versus working out when you're fueled properly.
Yeah.
So that was a big eye opener too, of like just how different that was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like if we took, I mean, I don't know, like somebody that was gonna like go and run a race or run a marathon or something, right? And like for the week leading up to the marathon, we starved one person and didn't let them eat at all, and then the other person was just fueling themselves properly. Like, I mean, who do you think is gonna perform better in their
Yeah,
race, right?
yeah,
So that's kind of the thing is like, I mean, again, it's like when you're eating in a calorie deficit, not only are your workouts going to get worse and your recovery is going to get worse, but really all of that biofeedback is going to get worse. Your sleep's going to get worse, your energy levels, your productivity, you're going to be more moody, you're going to have more digestive issues, your sex drive is going to go down. And all of these things, it's not like it just like happens overnight, like the first day you go into a deficit, but
Right.
the longer you stay in a deficit and the lower that you go down in calories, the more prone you are to having these things happen there.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
that
a
was the
lot,
nice thing with the biofeedback that we would always talk about on the post calls. Like, okay, well, how's this feel? How's this feel? Are you more tired? Like, and that's, there was so much communication between us on the, when we were going into the dieting phase. And especially the first time I didn't fully understand, like, you were asking me all these things. I'm like, I don't know. It's fine. It's normal, I guess. But like on the next time, it was like, okay, yeah, no, yeah, this is definitely that, or whatever the case may be. It definitely, just the communication and just the tools that you give your client, like it makes it easy. Like if you follow the program, it's going to work. As long as you put in the work, it's going to work. I guarantee it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
yeah, I mean, some much easier said than done, I guess, right? But I mean, you are
It
right,
can
right?
be.
I mean, when you've got when you've got the education, you've got the tools, you've got the game plan mapped out to you, you've got the teammate and a coach who's gonna, help support you and hold you accountable, and us be able to work together in terms of communication. You mentioned the gym there and being able to substitute exercises, or just be able to bounce ideas off each other, and just like, but basically work together as a team, right? To come together to accomplish a goal that you came to me to accomplish, right? Because I always say it's like
Right.
your success, right, as my client is ultimately my success, right? It's like if you're not successful, I'm not successful, right? And
Right.
so, I mean, I care about this just as much as you do, right? But I can't care about it more than you do, right? We've got to,
Right.
I mean, I can't sit there and hold your hand and go fly around the country with you. Like, you're the one that has to, grocery shop and meal prep and track your food on MyFitnessPal and update
Yep.
the habit tracker and get in the workouts. I mean, you can have I could be the world's leading, expert in nutrition and give you like the absolute perfect plan in the world, but like, you've got to carry out the plan. You've got to execute the plan. And I think
That's it.
that's a big missing link for so many people. They think that they can just sign up and hire, we were talking about this pretty recently, right? A lot of people
Right.
think they can just, sign up and hire a coach to work with. And, you're kind of just like, you're paying to play the game. I mean, you're paying for obviously like education and tools and support and accountability, but like, you have to do the work. And if you don't do the work, you're not going to get the results. And that's really like anything in life, right? I mean, like,
Right.
we could compare this to becoming successful and, in finances, or successful as a husband, a dad. I mean, literally anything in life, right? Like,
Yeah.
anything worth having takes hard work to obtain, right?
Yeah. Definitely. And that was the thing too for me, like knowing that I was going to have to talk to you. The accountability for me was great. Because those days you're like, oh God, I just don't want to do it. But I was like, okay, well, no, I got a coach. I gotta get this done. Um, but then the other thing that you had said too is, you you can't care more than the other person, and that's 100% true. Like, but you care so much. Like, we talked several times. You're like, I made a joke about like when we were ended that first dieting phase. It's like, okay, well, hey, a couple more of these, and we're gonna be right where we want to be. And I was like, then I won't have to pay you anymore, and you're gonna be out of money. And you're like, man, nothing to make me happier. Like that was and it goes back to like what I said at the beginning is you're not pushy. Like you legitimately want what's best for your client. Like you want it. Like you're all in. You're 100%. Like like I said, I texted you and you'd be like, yeah, sub this, and you're so easy to get a hold of, and you want it for them. Like you're in this to help people. It's it's just what you love doing, and it was made it easier, I guess, for me. Know that I had somebody in my corner that, like, even though, you know, especially in the beginning, that we zoomed every week, but you don't know somebody, but like we got to know each other over the course, and but you cared just as much day one as you did the last day. Like it was like, hey man, let's go get it. You know, you're gonna crush it this week. Like, so having somebody to keep you accountable and motivate you and and give you the roadmap. I mean, like you said, hey, go do this and it'll work. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And the proof's in the pudding, as they say. You know, I did what you said, and sometimes better than others, obviously, but you know, it worked great. And I don't know, like the one thing that you'd said too, and I I would strongly encourage people to think about this when you're going through the journey is like the scale is only one part of it. Like there's other things happening. Like don't let yourself like because there was especially in that second dieting phase, like um, I lost a lot of weight quick. Like when we did that first reduction, I lost like 10 pounds in 7 days or something crazy like that. Um, but then it was like very slow chipping away, and then we plateaued for like even though we were doing the reductions, like it's I know it wasn't forever, but it felt like forever, and it was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? But then like I woke up one day and I'm like, oh, hey, my pants don't fit the same way anymore, you know. So the scale is only one part of it. Like your body composition and the way your clothes fit and all that stuff, it does change too. So you know, paying attention to those biofeedbacks, like you said, makes a huge difference. And that was one of the things that I put on my last update is like the one thing I really wish I would have done is like measured everything out, and that would have been another way I could have like, oh no, yeah, the scale's not changing, but this is changing or that's changing. But you know that it was just a looking back thing. But the accountability was great, and just the whole thing's been great. I loved it every second of it. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the next dieting phase. And we talked about this, you know, uh, after the first dieting phase, you're like, yeah, just all all it is now is time. Like fast forward a year from now, and you keep doing what you're going to do, what you're doing, and you're going to see results. All it is we got to get through the time, and that was it. So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big, I mean, once you kind of get on that consistency train, right? And you know, you start, you know, there's a lot in the beginning there, right? I mean, even just with the tracking tools, I mean, updating a habit tracker every day, you know, tracking on my fitness pal, right? You know,
right,
sending food pictures or sending workout videos. I mean, these are all habits in and of itself, right? And so but once you start getting results, once you start building consistency, then you got to realize that, man, this stuff does take time, right?
right,
And so it's really about like being able to trust the process and kind of fall in love with the
absolutely,
journey, which is, you know, where you're at now, where it's like, I mean, you can't wait to do the next dieting phase, but you also know you can't do it right now. Like you've got to go through a
yep,
maintenance phase again. And
yep,
but just understanding that process and that journey and having, you know, like knowing the direction that you're going and having that plan mapped out for you, rather than just like, you know, being like an information overload where so many people are at, you know, doing Google searches and trying this and trying that and just being all over the place with stuff, you know.
yeah. That was one thing we talked about when I first started. You know, you'd ask me like what I felt my knowledge was at, and I said I think like a four. And when we were talking, you were like, well, what do you mean? Like, and I'm like, well, you know, you go out and you talk to you can find any opinion to, oh yeah, you need to do cardio. No, you don't need to do cardio. You need to lift weights or this or that or the other. And to have somebody sift through the BS for you, and say, no, that's BS. That doesn't work. That's not how the real world works. You need to do this. Like having somebody map that out for you, like it just it makes it easier than just trying to figure it out on your own. There's a lot of people that go out and do it on their own, and that's great that they can do that. But the trial and error that they have to go through versus like having somebody in your corner that actually knows what they're talking about and can tell you, hey, yeah, you need to go do this and that, and whatever that is, like to get the results that you're looking for, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that you brought up a good point there, which is like there's a lot of people, right, that will be like, I tried this and it worked, right? But then now they're 50 pounds heavier or whatever. And so it's
Right,
like, well, did it actually work? Right? Or
right,
did it, I mean, quotes here, right? For those that are just listening, it's like maybe it worked, for for a period of time, but it didn't actually work, right? You had no exit strategy, right? And you
right.
didn't sustain the results that you just worked so hard to get. So it's like, did it actually work? No, it actually didn't work. It was like a quick fix that you tried, right? No different than somebody that goes and gets a weight loss surgery or something and then gains all the weight back, right?
Right.
I mean, we can't put a band-aid on the solution. We have to address the root cause of the problem there, right? And so, going back to that point that you had said about, just like the communication, right? And us being able to work together as a team, right? It's like, I mean, for anybody that's listening to this that have played sports before, I mean, think about that, growing up playing sports, right? And having like, think about your favorite coach that you ever had, right? Who like, they were there to work with you as a team, they supported you, they held you accountable, like it's almost like you wanted to make them proud, right? Like it's
Right,
like,
that's exactly. And
so
the same thing happens with this,
yeah, the
or it
same.
did for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the the same thing that can happen here. I mean, it's a very similar thing with like, with work and people's like bosses. I mean, this is what we'd hope for like in a boss. This is what our kids hope for in a parent, like, so it's like, our spouse hopes for in a spouse, right? I mean, these, like, the relationship aspect is so important. I mean, I always say most people don't know how much, or most people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And that part of like the coach client relationship is so important, because I mean, anybody out here can go and, like you said, they can go search something on Google, they can go pay $99 for a meal plan. There's a lot of other things that are out here that are a lot cheaper than what you just invested in. But again, it's like just having this, like, just me like telling you what to do and us actually working together as a team over the course of a year, it's a completely different dynamic there. It's why I never wanted to be a registered dietitian and go work in the hospitals or in a clinical setting, because what that model looks like is they go into the patient's room, they give them a handout on diabetes or whatever, and they say, any questions, good luck, right? And
Right.
that's that. We just know that that doesn't work. Like, you don't just need education, you need support, you need accountability, you need somebody to be on your team to work with you to help you accomplish your goals.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree. And it helps you, or it helped me, you know, change the mindset, and even like we said, the dieting phase, um, you know, like that's not the normal. The normal is the maintenance phase, and having that mind shift of like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to live my life. And then when I get to that phase, if I get back to a phase that I want to shed a couple pounds because I'm going on vacation or whatever the case may be, like, okay, that's going to be a short duration of this. And then I go back to my real life of maintenance calories. So, the mind shift and the time that we work together has been awesome for me. It just changed the way I looked at all that stuff. So,
Yeah, I think, I mean, looking into, we kind of mapped out like what this next year is going to look like for you on your own, right? And you have this exit strategy where it's like, like, I mean, ultimately, I always kind of like talk about, I mean, if you could diet, maybe once a year at max, like that's
Right.
really what you'd want to get to, maybe like for me, I typically do it right before the summer. For some people it's that, for some people it's a vacation, but basically just like looking at your year in advance and being like, hey, if you want to diet, pick one time, let's call it 3 months, 4 months, but then that other 8, 9 months of the year, you should be eating at maintenance calories. And so for some people listening to this right now, they're like, well, I don't want to always be constantly thinking about maintenance calories or deficit and like tracking my food all the time on my fitness pal. And I totally get it, right? And so like even for you, like that's a model that you're going to shift out of eventually,
Right.
once you've accomplished your goal, which is like shifting off of my fitness pal, shifting off of the habit tracker, shifting into a truly more intuitive approach. It's just, I always joke, it's like you can't do intuitive eating, right? Intuitive eating got very popular at one point. You can't do that until you've actually built the self-awareness through tracking to build the
Right.
good habits, get rid of the bad habits, and create that level of understanding for yourself that actually affords you the ability to become intuitive at a certain point there once you're ready.
Right. And that's what, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And that's what this last year's been. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but like I subconsciously, okay, yeah, I know how much 6 ounces of chicken looks like, or eight. I can visually look at it, even though like you weren't sitting there saying, okay, memorize this or anything. Like just by doing it for this last year, it makes it easier. And so here in like you said, in a couple of months, I'm gonna shift off of tracking everything on MyFitnessPal and the habit tracker, which I love the habit tracker. It's awesome. Um, yeah, that was even that in and of itself was an amazing tool that you gave me, because it gives you that 30,000 foot view. But yes, and
And as a pilot, you love that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? No, but I mean, so I mean, just for those that are listening, like the habit tracker, right? I mean, you filling that thing out for 365 days. You always hear like in order to become an expert in something, it's 10,000 reps, right? So like you think about all the reps that you've put in all of these different areas, right?
Yeah,
And ultimately, again, building good habits and get rid of bad habits. But I mean, if you were to describe that habit tracker, how would you describe it? I mean, what is it, and what has it really done for you?
the habit tracker is awesome. Um, it's just the way I describe it. It's just another way to see how your week has went. Um, I know, like in the past, before we worked together, I'd work out and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, I crushed it this week," and I I'm weighing in, and I'm like, "Man, like I ate great this week. Like, what's going on? Like, nothing budged." The habit tracker, you fill out, it's got a bunch of stuff on it, but like things like how many hours did you sleep, how many calories did you eat, how much protein did you eat, did you eat out, did you work out, did you eat protein at every meal, did you eat half plate of color, it has all these bits of information on it, and you can look back, and when you get to the end of the week and you're like, man, I didn't lose a pound, I ate great this week, you can go back to your habit tracker and be like, oh no, I didn't. I went over by 100 calories there, I went over by 200 calories there, and 100 calories there. And so it gives you that awareness of like, no, you didn't do as good as you thought you did, or you did, you know so it gives you, like I said, that big overview of how how it's been going. And that thing, and you told me at the beginning, this is probably one of the favorite things that most of the clients love. And I was like, okay, when I was filling it out the first couple, I was like, I don't really get that, but after I used it, I was like, okay, nope, yep, totally understand. So yeah, it's just another way to hold yourself accountable, and see, okay, yeah, this is where we went right, or this is where we went wrong, or and I can go back and look at the stuff that we did in the beginning, and so it's a great tool. And my fitness pal too, like it's it's almost uh it's a little addicting at this point of like, okay, yeah, I got everything in there, and I I've got 200 calories left, or oh crap, I don't have anything left. So it's the whole thing for me, and I know I'm weird, but it was just it was almost a little addicting towards the end, especially. So it's like, okay, sweet, yeah, and coming off the dieting phase, it was really addicting because you just get to see, oh yeah, I get more calories, I get more calories. So um,
Yeah, I mean, as a tool, it can definitely be addicting. I mean, that's why for some people it can be, there can be like negative relationships that can come from it, like it all comes back to that mindset, right? And like what you were
right,
saying earlier, I mean, the clients, they come to me for a specific result or a number of different results that they're looking to get. And obviously like that's the goal, like that's what we accomplish. But what gets you to not only get those results but also be able to keep those results is the mindset that's developed along the way, right? And
yeah,
that's why, I mean, this can't be like a 30-day thing. I mean, it has to be a transformative process. I mean, for you, when we first started working together, I mean, you signed up to do like reoccurring monthly coaching. After 1 month you signed up for 6 months of coaching
right,
paid in full, and then you did another 6 months. But I mean, day one when we did that first initial consult, you probably would have never thought that we were going to work together for a year. um
yeah. No, yeah, it's like you said, it's a process, and you got to get through the process, and like I said earlier, it's just a time thing. If you are consistent and you do the work and you do what you say, um, it's going to work, and it's just a process. And the mindset that you come out of it with is great. Like I said, I can't say it enough. It's like, okay, I really want to fast forward to next February so we can start this dieting phase again, so I can lose the last little bit that I need to get off here, and and get where I want to be. So yeah, the mindset part was, you know, it was crazy how it developed. I don't even know how. Like it just did. It's just changing that lifestyle of like, yes, it's easier to go out and eat, but if you're wanting to lose the weight, you got to start cooking. And like you said, I'm an airline pilot, and I bring my meals with me on the road, um, and that way I know what I'm taking in, because that was one of the things. I mean, I knew it subconsciously, but you know, uh, just the amount of, like, even healthy stuff that you get asparagus or whatever at a restaurant. Well, yeah, the asparagus is great, but the 2 tablespoons of butter that they threw on it, and not so much. So it's all those little additives that it's like, oh man, I just lost 100 calories to butter. That And when you're on that restricted in the dieting phase, that's just 100 calories you didn't have to give up, especially to stupid butter. So
Yeah, well, and that's the way, I mean, you kind of start to look at it, especially when you're dieting, right? It's just like finances. I always compare nutrition to finances, and that it's ultimately a budget that you're working with. And you can choose how you want to spend. I mean, obviously we want to focus on good quality food, but you can spend that budget however you want to spend it. If you
yeah,
want to go waste it on a few drinks of alcohol or whatever, and then there's 5, 6, 7, 800 calories, and now you got less calories for food. I mean, that's up to you.
then you're going to be starving,
Exactly. Yeah. So
and
it's
then you're
all
going to
about.
do then you're going to do eat something that you don't need even more than that, and it's a domino effect. But that's the great thing about, like, I'm in maintenance calories, and that's the great thing. Like, I eat clean, and then I've got a couple hundred calories, and um, oh hey, I'm gonna have just a handful of peanut butter M&Ms because I got the calories to do it. Or I am going to have that adult beverage that because it's hot out and I'm at the pool or whatever the case may be. And as long as you budgeted for it, it's not a big deal. Like you said, like you can use your calories how you want to use your calories, but in when you're on maintenance, especially, but uh, in the dieting phase, yeah, you got to tighten it up a little bit, but you still can do it however you want. It's just gonna affect your performance, and you're gonna be starving if you don't do it the right way. So
Yeah, and that's all just part of the process of learning and kind of experiencing and figuring out what works best for you and your lifestyle. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that, I mean, if they were in your shoes, they would say that it's impossible being on the road like that as a pilot. I'm sure you talk to other pilots who are like, I don't understand how you do it. I would
I've been
never.
made fun of a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm sure
Dude,
there's some
what
that
are
are
you
like.
eating right now? Hey, don't ask. Don't ask things you do. I'm working with a nutritionist as what I gotta eat.
Well, that's so
All
interesting,
right.
right? I mean, it kind of comes back to the fact it's like, I mean, what you're saying earlier, if you just do, if you just do what you're supposed to do, if you just do what they say, like being coachable. But at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, like it sounds great in theory, but it's a lot harder than, than what it seems. Because there's a lot of people that they complain about the results that they aren't getting for the work that they're not willing to put in. And again, it doesn't mean, I mean, you're not trying to go be a bodybuilder, physique competitor and stand on stage or do anything crazy extreme like that. But like you do have to change your lifestyle habits if you want to transform your body. Like what has
Right.
gotten you to where you are today when we first started is the lifestyle you've been living. And so if you think
Yeah.
you're going to transform your body without making these changes, then you're a little delusional there.
Yeah. Well, you said it a couple of times to me, well, it takes time to erase 37 years of bad habits.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, you can't expect it overnight, but if you just do the consistency thing and you're consistent, it will work. I promise.
Well, and that's kind of what that habit tracker can do for you again too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you now have a year of filling out a habit tracker. You're talking about how what we think about a week, right? Well, it's like, yeah, you can look into a week. You can also assess what the month looked like. You can
Month.
also
Yep.
assess what the quarter looked like, what the year looked like. And perfection is not the goal. Like you don't have to be perfect. I mean, essentially, most of the time, if you try to be perfect, that leads to self-sabotage and eventually just giving up altogether. But if you can focus on being consistent, which is the fact that we're a product of what we do the majority of the time, well, then that's ultimately what's going to set you up for success. And so you can look through your habit tracker there every year and have that 10,000 foot view, 30,000 foot view and be like, look, I wasn't perfect, right? But here's the
Oh no.
results that I got based off, me being consistent the majority of the time. So
Yep.
that's I mean, it's a great thing for people to remember because they have such, I mean, and a lot of it's just like what the culture from a nutritional standpoint have done with the keto diet or any of these diets, Optavia or whatever, right, where it's like they put this very very they put this goal on you that is just like not sustainable, right? And sure, you might have the mindset, the discipline, the willpower to do it for 30 days, but you're not going to be able to do it for the rest of your life. And so
Right.
once you have that realization and the motivation's down, then you're just like, screw this, I can't live a healthy lifestyle. And
Yeah.
that's the trap that so many people get in there. So I want to I want to respect your time here because I know you're busy and I could probably sit here and go on for like 2 hours with you about this, but
Whatever.
I could definitely, I want to highlight here. So when we first started, again, this is like about a year, right? A little I guess a little more than a year, right? And so we went from 243 to 206. And
Yep.
then even more importantly, body fat percentage went from 36.8 to 28.2, which as a male, right? I mean, that's a huge improvement in body fat percentage. Your lean muscle went from 137.7 to 142.5. So you not only lost weight, right, but you improve your body fat percentage and you actually gain muscle during the process there, which
Right.
that's what makes you actually, number one, be able to sustain the results, but also improve your body composition and improve your confidence with the shirt off, all of these things, right? It's a lot of people, they lose weight, but they lose muscle at the same time. And then
Right.
that's when they end up, gaining that weight back plus more there. So if you think about your workouts, right? Like talk to me a little bit, and I don't know how much, there was quite a few, but if you think about like some of like the most notable like PRs, like personal records there over the last year in terms of like how much stronger you got and squat, bench, deadlift, these types of things, like what would you say like your top like 3 to 5 like personal records there and strength training in the gym were?
Well, so uh, I guess the quintessential, the bench, the squat, and the
Deadlift.
deadlift were probably the ones that I kind of paid most attention to. Um, we never did a max or anything, but bench I've probably increased from what I used to be able to do to what I can do now, probably 40 to 50 pounds, I'm guessing. Um, Squat, I could, I probably say especially from where I started, I could probably do 100 more than what I could. Um, and then deadlift was always fairly decent. So it's probably there again, probably only 60-ish, 50-ish pounds more I can do now. But the crazy thing was, and the one thing that I would like everybody to know, you know, when these workouts that you do, everything is customizable. Like there was one that you had me doing in that first rotation, the wall climbs, I think they were, where you do a push up with your feet against the wall and then you walk your feet and
Oh,
hands
the
up the
wall
wall.
walks. Yeah,
Wall
wall
walks,
walks.
that's what it was. I
Yeah.
thought you were nuts. I was like, this guy's trying to kill me. He's literally trying to kill me. But I tried them. I did them. They were ugly, but I'm waiting for those to come back around to see how much better those are. But yeah, that one was probably one of the more notable things that. And you're like, oh well, just do this instead, because I sent a picture of it to you, and I'm like, what are you doing to me, man? Like, I'm not in shape yet. Like, this is above my ability here. You're like, oh, just do this instead. I was like, no, I'm gonna try it, but what the heck? So, but it goes back to the, being able to reach out and just say, hey, can what should I do instead of this? Because, you understand, like, hey, not everybody can do this or that, or, knee problems, or got a bad shoulder. I tweaked my shoulder squatting, of all things, at one point, and you're like, oh, well, instead of doing this, do this. And, you know, in a couple of weeks you can kind of go back to doing that. And so just the customizableness of it was great. But yeah, I'd say a solid on all those quintessential, like, main lifts, I guess is the way you'll call them. I'd say the least I could probably increase it was 50 on all of them. But squat for sure is probably more like 100. Um,
So that's
from
huge, right? I mean, in a
Yeah,
year's time, putting on 50 pounds on bench, 50 pounds plus on deadlift, 100 pounds on a squat. I mean, that's such a big thing. Like, again, is like being able to get stronger, right? And
right,
prioritize putting on muscle, right? The more muscle that you can put on, right, the more you're going to improve your body composition. And when I say that, people are like, oh, I don't want to become a bodybuilder. I'm like, we're not trying to make you a bodybuilder. It's just
right, yeah,
you're the stronger that you get. I mean, this translates into the rest of your life here, right? I mean, if you don't ever do strength training, well, then you're the likelihood for both men and women later in life there of having a fall and fracturing a hip, or having to get a back surgery or knee replacement, or not being able to get off the toilet by yourself when you're 80 years old. I mean, all of these things go up significantly, and women getting osteoporosis, like, so I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And so the like strength training is such an important aspect of this process. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Most people think when they're trying to lose weight, they just need to do tons and tons and tons of cardio, and restrict their, all their
Right.
nutrition and all their calories as much as possible, which, yes, that might make you lose weight, and it might make you lose weight fast, but you're losing muscle, right? And you're going to gain that weight back plus more. And you saw
Right.
that like with P90X and
Right.
multiple times, right?
Yeah, it was just a lifestyle I couldn't live, the P90X anyway. Like, I mean, it worked great and I got great results from it, but, you know, I didn't have a bare minimum of an hour and a half to work out. I had little kids, and I mean, I still have little kids, but I've got an awesome wife that has allowed me to get to the gym, but it's still not anywhere close to what I was doing on those. So it's just, yeah. And the other thing too is with the working out, you'll build more muscle. Well, you'll also be able to eat a little bit more calories because your muscles burning more calories. So, um, you know, it's just that double edged sword of, once you build that muscle, it actually it helps out a lot, and it
Yeah,
makes you feel
absolutely.
better too.
Yeah,
Um,
the more muscle you have, the more that increases your metabolism, right? The more calories you're
right.
going to be able to eat, and so it's really like it's kind of like a no-brainer there, being able
Yep.
to incorporate that. I mean, there's so many benefits that come from that. But going back to what you said, I mean, like, when you think about I coach, right? I mean, it's individualized coaching. That's what the I stands
Yep.
for, right? And so like for you, even though you're following the workout app, which is a general program, and it's not like an individual program to you, what we can do through the process of working together one-on-one and doing individualized coaching is individualizing those workouts to you specifically, or like if you get injured, being able to work around them. Or
Yep.
I have a client right now who's like dealing with really bad gout, and so that's affecting a lot of the workouts and being able to navigate through those. So, but that's with everything, right? It's with the workouts, it's with the nutrition, it's with the lifestyle
Yep.
you're living. Like we gotta individualize this. Go back to what you said. We gotta create the MAT diet, the MAT lifestyle. We gotta figure
Yeah.
out what's gonna work best for you and set you up for success there. So no, man, I love that. So really, I want to hit on. So you talked about, when we first started working together. I mean, you were already. It was a recent thing, but you had already started working out and doing 5-6 days a week. So what do you think the biggest I mean, outside we talked a lot about like tracking your food and calorie working into a calorie deficit and maintenance and kind of the nutritional periodization. But what do you think the biggest changes were in your nutrition that created the success for you there in terms of transforming your body composition?
Um, well, obviously, having you, like when we first started, I was taking pictures of everything, and you know, getting a couple of things like ironed out, like my protein intake, with meat, um, raw versus cooked and all that stuff, and understanding, oh, well, hey, when you weigh it, it's actually, you got to multiply by 1.3 to get it what it actually is, and just doing all that stuff. So that was very informative. Um, but
Your first week
just
of protein intake, obviously it was thrown off with you being sick. So we'll look
well,
at
yeah,
the
yeah,
second
yeah.
week. The
Yeah,
second
the
week
second
was
week,
120 grams of protein, 138, 106, 147,
yeah,
141.
way too low, way too low.
What about
Was what
vegetable and fruit intake? Was that something that you felt like you upped quite a bit, or?
absolutely, yeah. Just, I mean, everything was better. Like, I mean, I just I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the awareness, and like I said, I wasn't tracking very well, and what I was tracking, I wasn't tracking correctly, and so like having like like you said earlier, like when you start, there's a lot to it, and I get it. There's a lot to it, but just keep plowing through, and it thins out. Like I was taking pictures of my food, and people like we were in the airplane, and I'm snapping a picture of a banana and an apple and yogurts, and guy I'm flying with looks at me like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And I'm like, oh, "I got to send this to this guy." explain. And so I tell them what I'm doing, and so just having that and building that awareness, like we have already talked about, that was huge. But yeah, no, the protein, like understanding how much protein I actually really was taking in versus how much I really needed it, and just how the protein would keep me full longer, and it helped with those cravings like later in the day, like, and you had said earlier about like if we had just stayed on a diet that whole entire time, it wouldn't have worked because I would have fallen off the wagon, like, and then I would have went back to like, okay, yeah, I'm eating a brownie or I'm eating this or whatever, and you fall off the wagon because you you lose the drive, so you need that maintenance calories. So that was a big eye opener from the nutrition thing of like, okay, well, this is a dieting phase, and we need maintenance to balance that out. But yeah, the protein intake was probably one of the more eye opening things for me of like what I needed versus how much I was actually taking in.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that piece of it there for you, I mean, obviously starting to eat out less, cook more of your food, do more meal prep.
That's the more meal prep you can do and plan out what you're going to eat, the easier it makes it. And I even like, it's easier for me to go to work now than it is for me to stay at home because I cook out my meals. I have it all planned out. I pack it. I know what I'm going to eat while I'm on the road, and it makes it so much easier. And I still do that when I'm at home, but not near like I do it for when I go on the road. Like I know, okay, yeah, I've got this in the fridge or whatever. And so I know what I can eat at home, but to sit there and be like, okay, I'm gonna have this for lunch, this for dinner, this for breakfast, this will be my snack, and I just kind of know like when I'm doing what. So it just makes it meal prepping makes it so much easier. Like it's a pain while you're doing it because you're cooking and getting everything messy, and then you got to clean it up. But if you cook enough, and that's the thing, like I cook trays of chicken now. Like it's not like I'm not cooking for one meal. I'm cooking however many chickens I can throw on that stupid grill. That's how much chicken I'm cooking. So the last time I cooked chicken, I cooked two full trays of chicken, and I still have a little bit left, but it's dwindling quickly. But yeah, meal prepping is that was a huge help too. Like just knowing it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, preparation is key, right? I was probably said it a million times, even throughout this podcast, right? Failure to plan is planning to fail. And so, but it's a skill. I mean, all of this is a skill set, right? I mean, teaching
Yeah,
you how to, like log your food accurately, that's a skill set. Teaching you how to grocery shop, that's a skill set. Teaching you how to meal prep, that's a skill set. Teaching you how to work out, that's a skill set. I mean, there's so many skill sets, right? People think about like, how do I lose weight or like, nutrition. And it's like, there's so many skill sets within that category of, each one of those. Right. So it's not,
right.
we generally say, yeah, you just need to start eating healthy and exercising more, but there's so much that goes into that, specifically there in terms of
Yeah,
developing those, each one of those skill sets.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's what I told you. Well, yeah, I've been eating, just trying to eat healthy and work out, and you're like, well, what do you mean by that? Like,
What does that mean? Right.
explain yourself. Like that's great. But what are you doing? So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. Well, awesome, man. I think there's been a lot of good value here that's been provided. I guess the last question I'd ask you would be, if you kind of think back, kind of throughout this process and journey. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think to myself. I guess it's been, I mean, almost. I mean, if you think to yourself, like in terms of the investment, right? Because this is a big piece that a lot of people get caught up on or on the fence about, right? Is like the financial piece. I mean, there's $99 meal plans out there. There's coaching that is $500 a month. I've seen coaching that's $600, $700, $800, $900 a month.
Yeah.
If you think about, I mean, kind of the investment, I mean, if we look at it here over the past year, I mean, it's like right around like, I think like it's like $4,000 in a year, I think, right? Something like that, if I'm
Yeah,
not
something like
mistaken.
that. The main thing I'd tell everybody is to, how to say this. Yes, does it stink? Absolutely. But do the investment in yourself. It pays off. And like the small investment now, how much money is that going to save you in hospital bills and stuff down the road? Like, just bite the bullet, do it, pay if you can do the 6 months, pay the 6 months, get the 1 month free, do it absolutely. And the great thing, the way I did it was like you said, we tried it a month, and I was like, yep, let's do it. And I did the 6 months, and I did a one time thing, and it was done. And I didn't have to think about like, oh, it's X amount this month, it's X amount this month. You just pay it, set it and forget it, kind of a thing. And the same thing for the second month or the second time. Once that 6 months was up, we just did 6 months again, and you know just do the investment in yourself. It will pay off. I know it's money, and especially now times are changing, but just make the investment while you can, and do it, because it will help. And but I will say there is one part that you neglect on your first in call. And I'm gonna, this is a public service announcement right here now. He's not going to tell you about all the clothes you're going to have to buy after you lose the weight. My uniform doesn't fit anymore. I had to buy new shirts, and I bought new shirts before the last dieting phase, and now I need more new shirts, and I need new pants, and it sucks, but suck it up. It'll be fine. But you are going to have to buy new clothes, because they're not going to fit unless you're hoarding clothes from when you're in high school, which I do have some of my high school clothes. I will say that, and they do fit again. So that's kind of nice.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I guess I've gotten a partnership with Thorne there, so I get y'all some discounts on supplements. But I guess I need to
There
get
we go.
some
Yeah,
discount codes for all the major apparel companies there.
yeah. It's definitely the one part that you got to take into account, because it's coming. It's just you got to be consistent, do the work, and then you're gonna have to buy new clothes. So there is another financial thing that you have to throw in there, but it's a good financial thing you have to throw in.
Yeah, I guess that's the one people won't be complaining about, right?
No, I'm not. Like, it's good.
But
So,
yeah,
but yeah,
man, no,
no,
I think it's
absolutely take the time, invest in yourself. Like, just do it. It's totally worth it. Like, whatever that time that you need, like, just do it, and it'll pay off in the long run. Like, it's totally worth it. I wouldn't change a thing. So
I love it, man. Well, so I guess my final question here would be this: is if you have, if you think about the investment there that you made from a financial standpoint, time, energy, all of this, right, over the last year, right? And thinking that now, the question comes up, like, do you feel confident in being able to, like actually do this for the rest of your life, right? Like, do you feel like
yeah,
this is like there's no end date to this? Like it's now become part of your lifestyle. It's become something that, as part of your core values. It's something that you want to prioritize for the rest of your life.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and if the answer is yes to that, then it's like, man, like me being able to invest whatever there into a year of my life and what that can do for the rest of my life. I mean, that now becomes like a no-brainer, right? So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said when on our last call, work off the we're going to work off the habit tracker. We're going to work off the tracking. on MyFitnessPal, and then those are tools in the tool belt for back when you go back on that dieting phase and or reduced calorie phase, whatever you want to call it. Then you can pull those back out so you know exactly what you're eating and dialing everything in. But it's just tools to help you succeed instead of something you have to do all the time. But I'll be honest, I don't mind the tracking. Like it just makes it so much easier. It's because I know how much I ate and all that. So, I'll miss the habit tracker and I'll miss the MyFitnessPal a little bit for sure. Once I cycle off that here in the next few months. But
It's funny how that works, right? At first you're
yeah, it
like,
is.
oh, I have to do this, and then now you're like, oh, wait, I like doing this. But
Yeah,
I mean, you're right, right? I mean, I always describe it as like it's this like invisible tool belt, right? That you're gonna take with you for the rest of your life, and just like a hammer or nails or whatever they're in the garage, like you don't just sit there and necessarily carry those things around with you all the time, but when you need them, they're right there. You go get them, right? And you can whip them out to use them for whatever you need to use them for. So just like
right,
that tool belt there, right? You've got the habit tracker, the MyFitnessPal, food picture. I mean, all of these things you're going to have for the rest of your life, and you have the confidence in that you've developed the skill set, right? And so this is a skill set it's a lifelong skill set you can take with you for the rest of your life. And the most important aspect of that is not only that you have the education and the tools, but you have the confidence to be able to now coach yourself for the rest of your life. And again, that's what iCoach is all about. Like, I don't want to
right.
coach you for the rest of your life. I want you to build that confidence in yourself that you can coach yourself, because that's ultimately what has to happen in order for you to be successful for the rest of your life. It's gonna be very rare that you're going to work with a coach for the rest of your life. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's an investment now for a long term lifestyle of like it's totally worth it. I'd recommend anybody do it. And if you're doing it right now, just keep after it, be consistent, and you'll get there. So
love it. Awesome, my man. Well, dude, this has been great. This has been super valuable. Any final thoughts? Anything that you'd want to leave the listeners with? If you were to make, if you were to talk to yourself a year ago before you started, any encouraging words that you'd give the listeners here, just kind of leaving us off?
I guess just the same thing. Just trust the process. It's gonna work. Be consistent. Follow follow through and just keep after it. It's sometimes in like during that second dieting phase, like when I wasn't losing weight, like I was for a month there, I was like, dude, this sucks, but I kept after it, and then woke up one day and then, oh, okay, well maybe some stuff is changing. All right, here we go. And then I started losing a little bit more weight, and just keep grinding. You'll get there. So
Love it.
trust the process.
Love it. Awesome, brother. Well, I'm going to sign us off here. Again, I appreciate you and your time, taking the time here today. And yeah, I'm excited for everybody to be able to listen to this podcast episode. I hope that it inspires others to take action and inspires them to work towards becoming the best version of their self. Because everybody deserves to feel their best and look their best and perform their best in this current season of life that they're in, and ultimately be able to like have that carry out into every other aspect of their life so that they can actually live their best life. And, you get this one life, this one opportunity, make the most out of it. Don't just
Yep.
Don't just treat your body like a garbage can. Treat
You only
it
get
well.
one.
You only get one. That's right.